It's Paul Marsh, and I'm delighted to say that I have been joined by Paul Rappaport. Paul, thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Well, you have a new book coming out. It's coming out on the 1st of April. It is called Gliders Over Hollywood, Airships, Airplay, and the Art of Rock Promotion. And I saw another video where the presenter did this magnificent 3 minute introduction and said all of the things, all of the amazing things that you've done. And I thought, well, I can't top that. But what can I do? And I thought to myself, well, so this is a radio interview. Most radio interviews are around about 10 minutes max. If it's really good, maybe 15 minutes. We've got 20 minutes together, and I just don't think that's long enough.
Well, one of the reasons is I'll talk your ear off, though.
But I mean, so
So that may be true, but even in the book, it's hard to shoehorn 33 years, right,
oh,
into a book. You can't put all the stories. And if you work for a big label like Columbia, like I did, there's so many artists. So I put the most memorable stories. Obviously, with bands like, Pink Floyd and the Rolling Stones and Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan, but there's a few in there, lesser known acts, like maybe people don't know who Chris Whitley is. They should. Hopefully if they don't, maybe if they read the book, they'll want to check his music out. But I mean, but it was so big. There's a picture of me with the Bangles, but I don't have a Bangles story. Okay, I have wonderful psychedelic furs stories, but I just couldn't fit them in there. And his Men at Work and Midnight Oil, and it goes on and on and on because Columbia was such a big label. So I just tried to capture the times. Like I just wanted to capture these magical times. I wanted people to know some of the people behind the scenes, like myself, who were characters. Everybody was a character. It's
yeah.
like the movie Guys and Dolls. Just switch it to the record business, right? That's who we were. And so I thought, meet some behind the scenes people and maybe meet some of these artists in a different way, like in a way you wouldn't know them in an intimate fashion, like I was lucky enough to experience and wrap it all up into something that hopefully is a page turner and people get a lot of laughs and learn a few things along the way.
Well, I always think that so I'm a big film guy. I love my films, and I always think that a good biopic of an artist is somebody that you don't really know, or you might know the big hits, and then you watch it, and it really turns you on to the rest of their music. And the one that I'll use as an example is the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx, who is just phenomenal in it, and it sent me on a deep dive, and for months after that I was listening to deep cuts of Ray Charles and some originals and some demos, and I think that this book is exactly that, because you're right, there are a whole lot of artists, a whole lot of bands in this that I do know, and some I know better than others, but there's also a whole lot of bands and artists in here that I've never heard of in my life. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to listen to all of their music, because there's something very, very special about this period of the very late 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There's something very special. And like I say, I'm a big movie guy. My favorite movies are Almost Famous, High Fidelity, Empire Records. And I just think there's something very, very special about that era.
There is. I mean, it was a music renaissance, not unlike Bach and Beethoven, and these people from the classical era when there's this somehow magic in the air, or excuse me, people are developing different ways of, courting and whatever. And, it's exactly the same thing. It's just rock and roll. So this late 60s through 70s through 80s and even into the 90s, this is a renaissance period of music. And this music will stand the test of time, which is something I didn't know then. I wondered, I said, gee, this is all so great. I wonder if it will fade. Like my parents used to listen to Benny Goodman and I don't. And I wondered about that. But what I'm seeing is this music is so great. It's as great today as it was the day it was recorded. And younger people are finding this music. And if you even watch these, the streaming services, one of them is Spotify, the numbers for the current pop are coming down and numbers for bands like Fleetwood Mac are coming up. Why? Because the music's so great. And younger people are going, well, who are these Fleetwood Mac people? Who's this Tom Petty guy? Like they want to know. There's I have a lot of interest, so I'm taking Latin dance lessons, right? So my teacher dances professionally with her husband. Okay, they're like 35 years old. Her husband's from the Ukraine. Okay, guy says to me, because we were just talking about rock, I told him a little bit about me, and he says, the Rolling Stones, they changed my life. And
Wow.
I said, Misha, the Rolling Stones changed my life because I was 17 years old, when they hit, like they're deep inside me, right? I learned how to play guitar listening to Keith Richards on record, right? I go, but I don't understand how it would change your life. You're a 35-year-old Latin dance champion from the Ukraine. These guys are older now. Like, how did the Rolling Stones change your life? And he looked at me and he goes, Paul, he goes, what, are you kidding me? The voice, those guitars. How could it not change your life, right? So somehow this music is so magical that it hit him like a ton of bricks. He didn't care that they're older now. It doesn't matter to him. He says, Rolling Stones changed his life. So I'm watching all these things. I watched a recital 2 weeks ago. A friend of mine said his kid's in a recital. We have, I don't know if they have it in England, but we have, School of Rock here. We have,
Yeah.
in my town, we have Bach to Rock, from Bach to Rock.
Yeah.
My kids in a recital come and see it. Okay, it's 12-year-olds, 12-year-old kids on stage. Kid's voice hasn't even changed yet, right? We're going to start with Burn by Deep Purple. I'm like, how do you even know Burn by Deep Purple? That's not even a hit. That's not even Hush. That's not even Smoke on the Water, right? We're going to, okay, these are 12-year-olds. And the 12-year-old guitar player is a shredder. And he starts, and I'm watching 12-year-olds play Burn by Deep Purple. And I'm going, oh my God, this is great. This is fantastic. Because it's a school of rock. And if you're going to learn rock, well, what rock are you going to learn? You're going to learn the rock of this Renaissance period because it's the best, right? It's something that grew from the blues and then grew on each other. People hear something and then their band turns into something else. So
Do you
who else
know?
are you going to learn from? You might as well learn from Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, and because you're not going to find better, right? So,
I think that throughout the years there has always been bad music. You've had bad number ones from the
mhm.
50s right through to 2025. There have been bad number ones. But I think bad music comes and goes and people forget about it instantly. But I think that good music stands the test of time. And I think we all know right now in the digital age that we live in, the quality of music is not quite there. It's very much the TikTok generation, the here and now generation. But the bands, so I discovered the Beatles through Oasis, which in this country I think a lot of people did. I was 14, 15 years old in the mid 90s, discovered Oasis, discovered Beatles, and it grew on from there. And I think that even now our kids are doing the same thing.
Well, I know. Well, I think that's exactly right. I was just going to say I was going to talk about my kids, but my kids kind of grew up with me, so they got hit with all this stuff before anybody. My 10-year. Right, I think when was Adam, like 9 or 10, when he heard Alice in Chains for the first time in my car, and he was like freaking out, right? It's like, Dad, this is the greatest thing in the world. So they and my younger son's a big Pink Floyd fan. I would take him to see Pink Floyd when he was young. Dad, are they going to play the pig song? Are they going to play the pig song? I go, yeah, Sam, don't worry, man. They're going to play the pig song. But they're little, right? They don't, excuse me, they don't know what Pink Floyd means to me and my generation.
Yeah.
We're backstage, the Floyds, I became very close to them, and you read about it in the book, a lot of wonderful things that happened between me and them. But we're backstage at, I'm trying to remember which, might have been probably Division Bell. I can't remember which um, tour it was. And that's when Pink Floyd tours, it's like a family. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the production's so big. I mean, I don't know how many people work for Pink Floyd, but it's like being backstage at a circus. I mean, there's people everywhere, so there's food, right? And so, excuse me. And so Adam and Sam are there, and I bring David over. I go, guys, why don't you meet you? This is David Gilmour, and this is Nick Mason. And they just look up and they're like, hey, you guys, these ribs are really good, man. And Gilmore's looking at me like your kid doesn't know I'm David Gilmore. I was like, come on, they're kids, right? They're into
Yeah.
they're into the ribs, right? They're looking at Nick going, Nick, thanks for these ribs, man. They're so cool. So um so they learn from me, but I think that's what's going on. I see kids every day, young kids wearing Pink Floyd t-shirts, and I say,
Yeah.
hey, do you just like the t-shirt or do you know this band? They start talking to me, forget the hit. So they're starting to talk to me about metal. I'm like, you know that? So yes, that's what's going on, and it's wonderful to see because again, this music is very special music. Um, uh, and sort of everybody knows it. Even the bands know it. I remember talking to excuse me, David Gilmour, and I was interviewing him for something I can't remember. And I said, "Okay, so you did Dark Side of the Moon. So it's the most amazing record. What did you think of it? Like you're the band. Sometimes you're too close to it." He said, "Honestly, Paul," he said, we sat and we listened to the whole thing, and it blew our minds. And then we looked at each other and said, "Did we do that? Like, is that us?" They were almost like a third party. They realized what they had accomplished. But it's a wonderful story because they're innocent enough to go, "Whoa, is that us?" You know,
How did we do that?
how did we do that? And they're very, well, I don't know about now, but when I first met them, they were very unassuming. I first met them,
Yeah.
I didn't even believe it was them. They were just too quiet, like they were too introverted.
It's just normal guys, right?
Yeah, it's like, you know,
Let's talk about the book if that's okay, because again, I'm very aware that we don't have
yes,
nearly
okay.
enough time for what I would like. Of all the stories, why did you decide to begin the book with the Bruce Springsteen at the Roxy?
Because it was very powerful, the scene that I begin the book with. It was, you've got a general manager of a big time radio station, drunk out of his mind, slamming my head against the Roxy walls backstage. It just sort of showed itself. It's funny when you write a book, you move things around and you go, well, maybe this should be the first, or maybe that should be the first. I knew that the first chapter, I needed to be something important that would just get you right into the book.
Oh,
And
and
then
it does.
I could take a beat and say, oh, by the way, I don't know if you're interested in this, but this is what music means to me, and this is me growing up a little bit. It give you a background of me, which I think is important. But I wanted the reader to understand what this book's going to be, and maybe it buys me some time. So, I mean, I would like to think that everything in my book is entertaining. My childhood stories are entertaining stories.
They
They're not
are.
just, I was born and blah blah. It's like they're fun stuff. Like so. But I just wanted something important. I mean, at one time, I had started the book with me playing on stage with Pink Floyd. That was a beginning at one time. I mean, that's pretty epic, like at least for
Oh,
me.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's not something the average person can say, is it?
that's not something the average person would do, right? So, and I thought that would be good. And I had help from some author friends of mine. There's an author,
How
Clint.
to construct the book.
Yeah, well, Clinton Halen, who's the world's most known Bob, Dylanologist. I mean, he is the best Bob Dylan biographer is Clinton Halen. Just get, you know, his books, volume one, volume two. He's genius. And people like him would help me. And he'd say, hey, Paul, this is great. But, especially about the Pink Floyd stories, but this is personal to you. Like you're on stage with Pink Floyd. It's a big thrill for you. It's great, but it's personal to you. You might want to think about something that has a broader appeal to more people because that's going to be the beginning of your book. And later in the book, yes, it's going to be a great story, but maybe that's not the beginning. So it got to me to think about, yeah, what's a wider appeal? But of course, because the artists are the artists, I could have started with the Rolling Stones. I mean, I could have
Yeah.
started with anything. It just sort of showed itself and that image of
It almost feels like it's one of those throw a dart moment and it lands where it lands and that's what it is.
it's funny how this stuff shows itself, but I will also say I'll give a shout out to Jawbone, the publishers. If anybody's listening to this, go to the Jawbone site. Aside from my book, I mean, there's some fabulous titles. These guys are fantastic. And the guy who helped me do the final edits, a guy named Tom Seabrook from Jawbone, was very, very helpful because I wrote the words, but I was so close to it, I couldn't see it anymore. He's like a record
Yeah,
producer,
yeah.
right? You need a record producer. Hey, Paul, this is great. These words are great, but these will be better here. And maybe if we move some chapters around, it'll make the book flow more. It's a record producer. You got 15 tracks. Let's get it down to 12 and let's resequence the record. And by the way, there's a better bass line for this song, right? That's Tom Seabrook. So hats off to him because he took something that I thought was very good, and I know I wrote it, but I think he made it great.
It's like you say, a great producer. The band can do what the band can do. A great producer can just take it to that next level.
And you need that as an author, and every author has an editor or more. And if you luck out and get a special one, then you can look at things and go, oh wow, what a great idea. In fact, that story was going to be chapter one. He goes, no, no, Paul, it's not chapter one, it's the prologue. It's
Yeah.
the very first thing people see. I was like, okay, like I'm a good listener, and they know what they're doing. This is what they do, right? I do music. I'm a promotion person, marketing person. I don't. I wrote a blog for 10 years. Is how I found my writer's voice. I mean, writing is a craft. I mean, it's different than just telling a story. And I had to learn how to do that. It took 10 years of writing a blog. Go, hey, I think I could really write something now. That won't be boring. So anyway, but that's how that came about.
Well, let's leave some of the bigger stories, especially about some of the bands, to, we want people to buy the book. So let's leave some of those stories to the people that are actually going to go and purchase this. I want to talk about a couple of things, especially that are earlier on in the book. The sliding doors moment of when you were given the phone number for Columbia
Yes.
and what could have been and what might not have been. And it's crazy that just that moment changed your entire life.
I was thinking about this because I was teasing my mother, who we lost a few years ago, but I was teasing her. I said, Mom, she was the one that suggested I try to get into UCLA. Okay. I was getting ready to go to a local school because I had a B plus average, but UCLA is UCLA. And she said, no, 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 Paul, you have so many other interests. They want well-rounded kids. You'll see. So fill out the essay part and tell them all about your other interests in the band and your interest in rockets and all these other things, and you're going to see they're going to want you. I was shocked and thrilled when I got this, acceptance to UCLA. Well, if she doesn't do that, and I don't go to UCLA, I'm not in that fraternity. I don't get the little piece of paper that says, you know, um, here's a phone number, call this person for a job at a record company. Then I don't fast forward to become what I've become. Then I don't do Alice in Chains, which blew media, the big rock mass media open for the Seattle Sound, right? Because it's a different sound. It was difficult for people you read in the book. That was the hardest thing I ever did in my life was to get this across. So I told my mom, I said, I think you might be responsible for the Seattle Sound.
The butterfly effect.
Well, look, I would never say the Seattle Sound wouldn't happen without me. That's ridiculous. But I know what I did for Alice, and it was very special, and it paved the way on rock radio for the next bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana. It was easier because people said, "Well, we're already playing Alice,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, why not?" Like this is a new music, and of course that new music became so big it demanded its own format. I mean that thing grew so big that we had alternative rock radio in the States because all that stuff hit. So, I would tell you this, I'm a pretty spiritual person. I think things happen for a reason. I don't know about everybody else's life. I almost sometimes feel my life was written. Like I'm in a play that somebody wrote. It's
Yeah.
just a feeling I have. But no, look, the guy gives me a phone number. I'm on, and you read in the book, I'm talking to this guy who's trying to talk me into a job in the record business. He's trying to figure out why he has to talk somebody into working for a record company. But I'm
When
like,
any other person would have jumped through hoops and done
yes,
anything he
exactly.
wanted, and you were
But
like, no, no,
I've
no,
got
no.
right. So I've got hippie ideals. Do I want to work for the man? I don't know. But I'm a music guy. So look, I could be your guy. I know every player in Janis Joplin's band. I know all this music, but how much time is it going to take? And And going, geez, it's a corporation. I'm thinking, God, do I want to work for a corporation, And then, of course, he says the magic words. Well, I said, well, what do I get? And he says, well, you get $15 a week. But he says, you get all your records for free. I go, stop. What did you just say? He said, you get all your records for free. Now, I'm a blue collar kid, Paul. $3 for an album, that's a luxury for me growing up. You could, in college then, you could eat for $20 for a week if you
Yeah.
planned it right. So my record collection's small, right? And I'm saying to him, wait a second. You're Bob Dylan, you're Janis Joplin, you're Miles Davis. I mean, you're telling me I get all those records for free? He goes, oh yeah. And then if you're in the business, we trade records with other record companies. All my hippie ideals are starting to melt away. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a corporation, but if you get free records, it can't be that bad, right? So I'm like, no, no, okay, I'm your guy. I'm in. Oh, but wait, son, you get a camera, you get a stereo. Like, I don't care about any of that other
Just
stuff.
give me the records.
Just give me the records. And
But
he
the
saw
thing,
through me,
yeah,
He
well, I
saw,
think that's the great thing about that is these days, again, we were talking earlier about the kids. The kids have just got every record ever made on Spotify, on Apple, on Amazon. They've got every record ever made. They
yes,
have no idea what it was like to have that one record and play it and play it and play it and play it and play it.
yes, that's a whole different experience. Also, sadly, you're talking about fidelity. So if any of your listeners know the difference, there's a very big difference if you listen to a proper vinyl album on a really good sound
Yeah.
system and anything digital. So you even take a rock record, take AC/DC, right? You turn that up in your living room, but it's a vinyl album. You can feel the bass. You're gonna feel like you're in the band. You feel like you are in on stage with the band. If you take that same music, on digitally a CD or just streaming, and you turn it up the same level, you just get a headache
Yeah.
because it's just a brick of sound.
Yep.
It's a really big difference. It's something that we've lost that I think is starting to come back. I mean, the people are pressing vinyl, they can't press it fast enough now. And maybe that will come back. I don't know, but that's something that we lost that is really, people need to understand. You hear a vinyl record, you hear an acoustic guitar, you can smell the wood. I mean, it's
Oh,
a big difference when you listen that way. So, no, those experience they won't have the experiences of the big album cover. Oh my God, here's a
yeah.
picture. That's about a gatefold. You open it up, it's like here's more pictures. Oh, here's Who live at Leeds. Oh, look at all these inserts. Oh, this is fun. There's puzzles, there's games. There's Country Joe and the Fish. You got a game. I mean, it was, you know, music plus. So no, that's gone. But the music, which is the most important thing, is still there. And I think young people are affected by this music. It's just great music. It's just the way it is.
I just want to finish off by talking about maybe after being passed the phone number, maybe the second most important part in your journey, which with all the great names, all the bands that you work with, Tony Bennett was the one that potentially stopped you from leaving the business.
Yes, that was most. If you said what's the next step, it would be that because the business I entered was mostly, men and women from the 50s. And it's some of it's duplicitous. I mean, it's like the Hey Babe era. It's like if you worked with a promotion man, I worked with a guy once who went to station and goes, "Here's a new Janis Joplin album. There's not a bad track on the album." Well, you can't say that to people. That's not true. But that was the kind of
Yes.
business it was, and I didn't know that I was going to fit in there because I
Is that
came
me?
from the '60s generation. We're all about authenticity. We're all about being transparent. And I went, I love the music, but I don't know if I can do it my way. I don't know. Is this the way you do it? I'm young. I'm green. I don't know. And sure enough, as I write in the book, I mean, I went to a party for Tony Bennett and a lot of record people there, big Hollywood party, a lot of people who went on to be very, very, important people in the music business. Russ Layrette was there. We were just kids. Russ went on to run Warner Brothers. So we're just kids. Like we're like 20, whatever, 22, right? 23. The guy who started Tower Records was there. It was a party, but I looked at the party and I went, these people they're just here for the party. I'll bet you that most of them haven't even heard Tony's record. They heard it was a Hollywood party. They all showed up and they're drinking Tony's booze and eating his food and everything. And of course, the record company pays for that, but they're going to take it off Tony's royalties. That's the way it works. It's a marketing expense. they leave. I look like a hippie freak. I got hair out to here. I got a mustache. I got a goatee. And I said, Mr. Bennett, could I just talk to you for a second? And he turned out to be so cool. And I didn't know because he was still in his pipe and ascot phase, right? And I just said, you just got to help me here. Like I'm just starting in the business, and I just don't know. Some of it just seems so fake. He goes, I said, look, Tony, and I didn't have a filter then, right? I said, Tony, this party, it's supposed to be for you. It's supposed to be for your album. I heard your album. It's a really good album. I don't think half the people in this place heard it, and I don't mean to be mean. They just were here for the party, And he said. And I was getting ready for these great, Tony Bennett, parables of great language that he was going to speak. And he looked down and he said, Paul, sometimes it can be pretty effed up, right? I say effed up because we're on radio. So, and he was so genuine to say that. And I went, whoa. And he goes, listen, let me just tell you something. And he told what you read in the book, he tells a story about him having the same problem when he was a world citizen. I mean, I Left My Heart in San Francisco was one of the biggest songs in the world. Then the music changed and he found himself out of favor and he went to see his friend Duke Ellington and said, Tony, just be you. Don't change. You'll see the world will come back to you. If you change, it's not going to be good for you. You're like a great apple. You're the best Tony Bennett apple we have. Don't change yourself into an orange. And he turned around and looked at me and said the same thing. Paul, I'm going to tell you the same thing that Duke Ellington told me. You seem like a really great kid. You love music. That's the most important thing. You'll do it your way. Just go out and be you. You'll see it will work for you. And he said, and honestly, Columbia Records is a great record company. You'll do great, here. And yeah, there's going to be some stuff that you're going to not like and you're going to think it's phony, and it is, but there's also some great stuff. And just immerse yourself in the great stuff and just you'll get by the other stuff. And that he changed my life because I literally was thinking about, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I just should go play in a band somewhere. And that was the next big thing for me. When I left that room, there was like a big weight was off my shoulders. I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to sink my teeth into this. And I'm going to do this, and I'll do it my way. And as you read, I got to be very creative in the things that I did, and I got to do it my way. And he and I became great friends, actually, which was another wonderful thing that happened to me, in my career was to be, friends with him and have good relationships with people like Bob Dylan. That's big stuff, for me. So,
I just think that is just the best advice. It's just be you. If you're in the right place, be you. You're gonna encounter some things along the way that are maybe not you, but ride the storm and it'll get good again. I think it's just the best advice. Paul, I knew this was going to happen. I want to talk to you for another hour. We're completely out of time. I'm so, so sorry. I just want to say before I leave you that I love the pranks. I love the pranks were just had me crying with laughter. Absolutely
you know what?
brilliant.
Wow, you're making my day because you don't, you go, should I put this in? Should I not put it in?
Oh, thank you so much for putting it
Oh,
in. They had the pig's head in the toilet. Oh, no, I had to put the book down. It was so funny. Honestly, if you're listening to this interview right now and you have no idea what I'm talking about, buy the book. I have to say, like I've said to you at the start of the interview, I'm more of a film guy than I am a book guy, but the right book will keep me hooked. And this is amazing. Like I say, there's the book. I got sent the advanced copy. It's absolutely amazing. Go and buy it. It's coming out 1st of April. Gliders over Hollywood, Airships, Airplay, and the Art of Rock Promotion. Paul Rappaport, you are a legend, sir. Thank you so much for talking to me. I really, really do appreciate it.
thanks for having me. And you need to know it's a big thrill for me to be on radio in England. That's a real big deal. So thank you so much.